Hey everyone, it's Michael Zapersky and welcome back to another episode of the Consulting Success Podcast. Today I'm joined by Skip Bowman. Skip, great to have you.
Thanks, Bob. Great to be here. Full of energy.
Yes, you are. I know you've had your 15th cup of coffee, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. So, Skip, for those who aren't familiar with you and your work, you are a speaker, you're a writer, you're a facilitator around transformational leadership. You're also the founder of Safe to Great, a coaching consulting business that helps organizations unleash their fullest potential. And you've also developed, which we'll talk about, the Safe to Great model, which I can't even say this word, operationalizes. There we go. I need a cup of coffee. The growth mindset and kind of concept around how to integrate mindset into growth. So we'll talk more about that. I'm sure you're going to do a much better job of explaining that than I just did. But I want to start off kind of a little bit early on in your journey to hear about how you got to where you are today. So take us back to the early days. I know you're originally from Australia. You are now in Denmark. What caused you, or what was kind of the impetus for starting Safe to Great, your coaching consulting business?
Well, it originally comes from, and thanks for having me on the program. Appreciate that. I mean, I originally was trained as an accountant, which
that explains boring, a lot now.
Yeah. But I fell in love with diving as a diving instructor, and a lot of experiences about diving, really shaped. I never really thought about it. There's a whole special relationship in terms of for most people find diving quite terrifying, and learning to build that trust between you and your students or the people you're diving with, to take on exciting, challenging, often, moderately dangerous things is really what sort of got me interested in that whole psychological safety piece. I don't think I called it that back then. We're talking about close in on 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But, that ability to sort of like build a connection between you and somebody else, to invite them into doing something, like a night dive on the Great Barrier Reef, where you roll into the water and it's pitch black, and and you're swimming around with tiger sharks, to turn terror into excitement is fundamentally what psychological safety is. If you're talking about diving, maybe it's like running a business, I don't know, from terror to excitement.
Right.
But that's a sort of a foundational experience. And I sort of wound back that I sort of, through a course of experiences, ended up going back to university and studying psychology, and here in Copenhagen, learnt Danish, and started working in corporates in leadership development. I hadn't really thought about leadership development. In fact, I didn't even know what it was. But then I ended up in that, and I haven't done anything else since, So I started internally, and then I started my own business about 12 and a half years ago. And, worked a lot with concepts, how to sort of like, turn an idea into a professional set of services, that kind of thing is what I've done. And Safe to Great is probably my best attempt. I've practiced a bit, and some of them sucked. Right. I think I'm getting closer to the right idea. I'll let the market be the judge. But, I think I've sort of seen the power of ideas that are well constructed, generate curiosity, generate excitement. People want to use them of their own free will. I call it contagious change, which wasn't a very good concept around COVID. But essentially this thing that as consultants, you can always go down the model that you want to control everything, you want to sell hours. I've got a different model, which is what we call a scalable model, where yes, we sell hours, but we sell ideas, and we want to enable organizations to help themselves. And that is a different model. And so I can talk more about that, but that's what I've learned over 12 years. It suits me too, because I do like collaborating with customers in a different way that the normal consultants would, because that's a bit more of an exploitative model, where here I'm, trying to work together with them and co-create solutions with them, which I like as a business model.
Yeah, well, I have to say, first of all, just the idea of jumping into pitch black water with sharks swimming around you it seems, you mentioned the word exciting, and I think that probably kicks in after the terror has drained out of your body.
Yeah.
Not for everyone, but but there is something
I used to
exciting
tell
about it.
I used to tell shark stories on the back of the boat during dinner before we were preparing for the night dive. That always got everyone, because the funny thing is you hardly ever meet anything. Diving at night's often the most boring thing imaginable, but it's the experience that matters.
Yeah.
And often that's about the how you sort of how mentally alert and awake you are. And when you dive at night, that's usually the thing. You're a bit more tense, you're a bit more awake, you're a bit more alive. And that can make night dives very exciting, even though you don't see anything.
All right. Well, let's shift into, I guess we'll fast forward. You spent time in corporate, you launched Safe to Great. Take us through when you launched the business, where did you get your first few clients?
All clients in consultant businesses are going to be through network. You've either worked with them or close to them, or they come via recommendations. I've never seen anything, because it's not a product-based industry, although you could say where I'm headed is a little more product-based. It's a very, very fluffy, cloudy, funny, weird thing. Okay,
Yeah.
come facilitate a workshop or coach my leaders. I mean, what the hell is that?
But how did you get that, Skip, is what I'm kind of looking at. Like, did you
Well,
send
I
out
mean,
emails to people? Did you go to networking events?
no, I think going to events matters. I think, any activities where you can meet people face to face, where you can build relationships, coffees, things like that really make a difference. I've worked very hard on customer service rather than building your business, because I think your customers are your best ambassadors. So what you really want is customers saying, I like working with Skip and prefer that. And if you can get into that position, they become, your classic, recommending, customer, which is what you want. And so I've always focused a lot on that. I've taught all my consultants, even if you spend 5 hours per week extra on customer service, it's still a lot easier than finding a new customer. I can reassure you.
Let's drill into that a little bit more, because the concept and idea of customer service is very broad. And I think a lot of people, they would equate that to like a retail customer service experience, or talking to somebody on the phone through customer service. So apply that specifically, maybe as an example. What have you done in your own business? What have you seen works best from that customer service perspective that has helped you to create that kind of bond with clients?
Well, we're in the knowledge business to a certain extent. So part of it is, in reality, we don't really sell anything. Our job is to almost like a coaching conversation from the very outset. We're curious about them. We're not. I mean, I don't share much about tools or approaches when I meet clients. I want to understand their business really well, and that's always been one of my skills. Is I can talk to them, I can listen to them well, understand what's going on, and I invest a lot in that. And that'll be the first thing I'd say to a customer. Say, look, I'm not going to charge you anything. What I'd like to do is build trust, and I'd like to build an understanding of your business. And I'm very happy to do the hard work to achieve that. And that can take months. It might even take a year. But that's where it needs to go. If you want to turn this into these, 6-digit customers, you need to be thinking like that. And in those conversations, if they feel listened to, you can have those opportunities to perhaps challenge or perhaps to give them insights. You need to be very careful about it. And
careful about what, when you say careful?
Well, the thing is that customers are being told things all the time. Do this, do that, do that. And in my business, it's always been about listening to the customers to understand their problem better. A lot of my sales calls will end up, the customers say, oh gosh, we talked about us, but we didn't actually hear who you are. They got no idea who I am. But in general, that leads to people feeling safe and comfortable talking about us. And that when we then design solutions or we work with them, we can come up with something fundamentally more creative. And I think there is a need for that when you're doing consulting work. I mean, my characteristic is people say, Skip, the business better than the people who are meant to know our business. You know it well. It's because I invest a lot of energy in understanding and then connecting it to leadership development, organization development. Because I'm the expert in that, and my job is to bridge it. My job is to say, okay, if you want to grow your business, if you want to get better at this, if you want to bring on, be more digital, you want to grow geographically here, how can I convert that into a leadership or a leadership development or learning and development pathway for you? That's my job. You just need to tell me about your business, and I can help translate that into ways that we can approach that.
Yeah, no, I think that's really key. I mean, we see oftentimes consultants who will rush that process, get to a proposal, and then when they're trying to write the proposal, like they can't communicate enough value inside that proposal because they don't really know what the buyer wants. They don't have that full kind of scope and understanding. I want to take us back for a moment. You mentioned that when you're talking to the people that you work with, you might say to them something like, "Hey, it's better for you to spend 5 extra hours this week just doing what you call customer service, as opposed to trying to go out and market and get a new client. That's going to actually work better for you." So let's just take the example of a consultant or a small firm that already has clients. They're in business. They're doing fine. They're doing okay, but they want to grow. What might you suggest to them, just like very tactically, in as much detail as you can? How would they allocate and actually spend that 5 hours? Are they picking up the phone, calling people that they like, clients that they've worked with now or in the past? Or are they sending emails? Are they doing research? What does that actually look like? How would they spend that time?
I think there's no doubt, churning the contacts regularly, having your list of people to call, and for no other reason, just to check in with them and see how they're going. I mean, people want to talk about themselves, so let them.
Yeah.
And that's an easy investment of 15, 20 minutes. I think that's part of that piece. I think where we're headed today is the saturation of marketing material. The market is oversaturated with information about products and prices and services, and most of it's fairly generic. I think the battle for a lot of consultants will be standing out, finding a niche, differentiating. So I think you have to ask the question, why are you here, and why would anyone else care about working with you? I think that's why I made the decision some years ago to become a mission-based organization rather than just another consultant company. And so I came up with a mission is making organizations safe for great work. And that kind of was a decision about how would I attract, if you like, what we call associates to the business or employees. How would we attract other businesses that want, as in clients, and say, well, why would I want to work with Skip and his team? Well, I like that mission, making organizations safe for great work. That appeals to me. I want to work with them because of that. Because people make decisions about where they buy, where they do business based on who they are. So you need to be something people would want to be. And I know that can sound funny in a consultant business, but that's exactly what I have tried to achieve. And I feel this is going to be increasingly important. I mean, the amount of marketing material that now can be spat out by AI, et cetera, just makes everything super generic.
Yeah.
So standing out and standing for something, it may not suit everyone, but you've got to have a tribe. You've got to have followers, and it can't just be internal. It has to be external. And somehow your mission has to make sense in a way where there was no money involved.
Yeah.
So the client says, "Hey, I dig that because it's a good idea. I want to be a part of it." For no other reason than it's a good idea.
No, it's I think a really important topic. A couple of months ago, we were running a little mastermind event for some of our clients in LA, and this was a topic of it. It's like, what do you actually want to be known for? And I think it's so easy to not think about that, like just to think, just you're doing your work, you're delivering on client projects, you're thinking about the marketing. But so often people actually are not even clear about what do they want to stand for. And if you don't know that, then like you're wasting so much opportunity, everything that you could be doing in terms of how you approach conversations or creating content or developing intellectual property or programs or whatever it might be. So I think that's really a great reminder for people here. As part of that, Skip, you talked about the mission. You have developed this model, the Safe to Great model. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about why you developed the model itself or the framework around Safe to Great, and then how have you seen that be beneficial for the company? And I ask that because oftentimes people they haven't taken the time to develop a model. They haven't branded it. They don't have a name around it. There's no real visual. They have ideas, and those ideas might work. They get them, like they have services, but they don't actually have a model or a framework. And that's something that we do internally. You do this as well. And I'm wondering, what has been your experience with this?
There's way too much price quality sort of pitches out there. We're cheaper, we're better, that kind of conversation. there's a couple of aspects to this. Is one of which is we're selling intangibles. We're selling a service that's tricky to quantify, etc. It's also an area that's full of models, which is also the tricky part. And sounding original is really difficult because, and I try to avoid cliche. I think you have to try to find a way of saying something new and that resonates. Of course, we have to build on something like I do. I mean, Safe to Great is a combination of the very famous book Good to Great, written by Jim Collins, which is kind of like the masterpiece bestseller. So, you know, I don't know where it came from, actually. I was probably just daydreaming, and I thought, well, isn't it kind of like Safe to Great? And that's just stuck, you know, and I always think a company should be called what it does. I'm a bit old fashioned. I remember reading about that many years ago, and I've had multiple company names. All of my company names have had nothing to do with me. They've always been something to do with what I do. So if I say, you know, what's your company? Safe to Great. People go, oh, what's that? I had a previous company called Global Mindset. Oh, what's that? Well, I think I know what that is.
Right.
So I think there's something about thinking about, I mean, sometimes you have cute names. You know, I've been part of business developments where, you know, they've called their company Yump or Blimp or
Right.
which can be funny because it's got a sound, or, you know, that can be cool too. But I do feel in professional services, we have to try to bring, you know, what are we here for do? What are we trying to do? How can we explain that? So for me, the journey started, you know, sort of partway into this. I just felt, oh, you know, I've always been fond of writing and conceptual development. I'm keen on that, and I have seen great and lucrative consulting models that are built up around not just a simple idea, but a big idea, and with lots of moving parts, but extremely nicely integrated. And I've been working on my own version of that. It's taken me years, along with a lot of other adventures, but it's worth the effort.
And
Because
how are you using it? So like you have this model that you've been developing. It's one thing to have it, put it on your website, but how have you found, you know, that it's effective, like the path to making it actually to bring it to life, to actually get a benefit or result or value from it inside of your business?
because the concept is more important than me. And you know, some people build their business up by being Tony Robbins, okay, but there aren't very many of them.
Sure.
I'm trying to create a concept that is both useful for my business, but Safe to Great's an idea the company can take and run with. I'm not worried about that. It's an idea that is bigger than my company. And that's intentional, because in corporate, in sort of organizational development, our biggest challenge is getting people to actually get interested in something, you know, like volunteering to do something. So we need these sticky, inspiring, contagious ideas. And I know they work. I mean, I've tried lots of them. I know some that work and some that don't. Sometimes it's a bit accidental, but when you get to these sticky ideas, you need to give them to the clients, because when the clients get excited about them, use them. And I have I'm wearing one of them, which is the No Hippo Zone, which is about a campaign to, you know, no asshole rule, or the no dickhead rule, or the, you know, the no jerk rule. I have it the no hippo rule. And the reason why I use that is a hippo's funny. It's not funny to be called an asshole, but hippos, anyone who's worked with me will remember me over the last 20 years for talking about hippos and as being the toxic leaders and people in our organizations. And that idea spreads, and ideas that can spread are incredibly powerful and useful for consultant companies. And I think it's bringing that sense of branding to leadership and organizational development, which I do, which is how can you create a fun idea that people want to use the words themselves, you know? So it's not like some technical term, or what's that? I want a word that people say, hey, I want to say hippo. I like that idea. I understand what it means. And then they start talking and using it. And if I can create those kinds of vocabularies and ways of talking, then I'm showing organizations, how do you create change? How do you create living, vibrant, learning organizations where people want to do hard things like try to make a great culture? It's actually quite difficult to do. So that's something which I've seen, and of course it translates into a whole series of other things. I mean, psychometric tools, books, articles, white papers, leadership development programs, lots and lots of, you know, physical training materials, etc. These are all things we've built over 6 years to give a richness to the way we do it, and a humor. You know, I thought of, you know, try to bring a little bit of that wonderful Pixar Monsters Inc. kind of world to it. And because that works, people love that kind of stuff. So a bit of humor is helpful when you're trying to have difficult conversations about, psychological safety or growing in a difficult circumstance. So that's why it matters.
And I'm also is there anything, sorry to interrupt, Skip, is there anything inside of, go ahead. Like, as you've been building out the model or the framework that you've found has not worked? Like anything that you have tried and looking back, you go, okay, yeah, that definitely didn't work, and now we got it back on track by doing this other thing. I'm interested in terms of the lessons learned that others may be able to avoid or benefit from.
Not being generous enough. I mean, I built some concepts way back in my first sort of entrepreneurial guys, and I had a really big client who said, "Skip, we really like that." I made them a game, and I'd modified it to suit their business, and they thought it was really amazing. And well, it was actually pretty cool. I still use it all these years later. But they said to me, could we use it? And instead of saying, "Yeah, sure, go ahead," I went, "It'll cost you." And I lost a massive client. Where what I should have said was, when you're selling consulting hours, which I do, don't get caught up on the frigging tool, right? Don't get worked up about it. Okay, yeah, you took 10 days to make it. Don't worry about it. If it gets you a hook into a customer that's going to put, six-figure consultant business in your way, don't get caught up about it. Be generous. Let them try.
In hindsight, what would be the move that you would make today if you could do that all over? How would you position that? How would you have that conversation?
Here it is. Go for it. Give me some feedback about how it worked. I've got more where that came from. Okay. Which is not what I did.
So you wouldn't, and I'm just putting this out there as an idea. Let's say you wouldn't go and say, "Sure, you can use it. Let me take you through it," like as part of some kind of an engagement, or you would just give it to them, let them run with it.
In general, I think I could have done that, and I think the client would have seen it as a gesture of goodwill. Now, it's just that I've seen that I've been close to that mistake again, where I've just chosen a different path. Yeah. The end of the day is that yes, I've got IP, and yes, it's really valuable, but if you're working with somebody who's going to steal stuff from you, they will do that. It's better than to sort of focus on, this could be the client who says, "Thank you for letting us use it. We really appreciate it. Could you come and run this with our executives? We don't feel so confident doing it." So it can open up a door. At the end of the day, it's all about relationship, not about IP. And although I have an IP model, and that's an important part of where we're headed with Safe to Great, I think you need to be careful about getting too sort of, you have to pay for every small inch of it. I mean, that's just because the huge difference in our business is that we make money when we do live stuff. I mean, we don't make any money on the records. We only make it on the live performance.
Right.
So sometimes you're going to have to think about a model where you're not giving it away, but you make it easier for your customer to get hooked into your world, and into what you're doing. And so I'd be much less concerned, but I think there's a way of doing it. I think you need to approach generosity from a position of strength rather than, "Hey, I'm giving it away because I don't have any clients." But showing, "Hey, we've got lots of business. I'm very happy to share this with you on a trial basis. As long as we can have a conversation in a month's time after you've had an opportunity to try it, and do it that way." I mean, I tried some computer software last week on a free trial. It's amazing. And of course I bloody well bought it, but the fact that it was easy to buy and easy to sort of start using all the services, it's a great model. And I think there's something to be learned from that, because if you don't have trust, sometimes that try before you buy is absolutely a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's a key point for many consultants who are often in a place where they hesitate to give value or to share their ideas. But that's what people are really buying, right? So the sooner you can deliver that value, you increase your trust, you increase your credibility and authority. It's much easier for somebody to feel comfortable in moving forward and engaging with you. So the other thing that is distinctive or different with your business, Skip, from many other kind of consulting businesses is that you have also a model or a structure around accreditation. Can you just talk a little bit about what that kind of accreditation structure is? What is it, why you decide to use that inside of your business?
in the business that I work with, which is in the leadership development, people development business, this model is very well known, and it's been around for a really long time and has generated a lot of money and does. I know what the global market for it is, but it's billions. Okay. And it's proven extremely powerful, done well, to lock clients in a nice position, what I would call today a clickable business that has a lot of reliability about it.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what I'm aiming at.
So
And
just, define what it is so people have an understanding who aren't
yeah, I
familiar with
mean,
that accreditation
if
model.
if you sort of take the classic tools that a lot of people might try, would be like DISC or Myers-Briggs. They all use the same model. In other words, there is somebody who owns the IP,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have built up a system where you can take the tool and you pay when you take the tool, and then the people who can debrief the tool or talk about the tool are all accredited.
Right.
And the accreditation, typically costs, quite a few $1,000s. And they pay a yearly fee to stay updated in it. So there's a nice model here. It's essentially like a franchise, but there's no physical, there's no like building or hamburgers involved. But essentially a very similar kind of idea.
Yeah, and what's the key part of that? Like, so for those who might be thinking, is this a model that might work for me? It sounds like the core at the core of this is having very valuable IP, something that the people would actually find value in. They want to invest their money and time in. They can clearly see a positive outcome from. So that IP needs to be there. But from, let's say, the practitioner or the other consultant or the coach that wants to become accredited in this, how are you getting those people to come to your business and want to pay you money to become accredited in this tool? Is it that you're going to generate leads for them, opportunities for them? Like, what's the main value that they're seeing in their mind?
If we're talking about sort of like an important customer for me, which would be a smaller consultant company, most of the time they don't have any differentiating IP. So they can't really go into the market and don't have the horsepower to say, okay, in what way is there some sort of guarantee of the quality of the knowledge and expertise and so on that I'm offering? We generate that via certifications. You can go through various training programs, etc. There's no difference really between being accredited and safe to grade and taking a program and a coaching accreditation. It's a similar kind of idea.
Mm-hmm.
The difference here is that it's connected to a business model around the buying and selling of in our case 4 different psychometric tools. When I say psychometric, they're in principles, personality tests and things like that connected to the safe to grade idea. So that's a really good model. In the corporate world, these things are quite valuable, and they can give you an advantage when you're doing your coaching or it improves your ability and it improves your branding capability.
Right.
And then, of course, what I provide is all the IP, the know-how, ways of doing things, and a brand.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the book has such a big role to play. My job is for people to think that safe to grade concept is the best hamburger in town.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, all the people who are selling that, they should go and work with them. I'm adding a little twist to it, which is a bit different, which is the whole mission piece. We're trying to differentiate quite a bit on the sense of community. We're here to make human-centric organizations.
Mm-hmm.
We're here to make sure we're not overrun by robots, and we're here to make sure that climate change doesn't ruin our communities.
Right.
They're 2 pretty important goals that we have. So that none of the other models which use this concept have that kind of goal. So I think this is a new way of looking at it. So we're trying to build a tribe of consultants and practitioners around the world who share those ideas and give them a business model which enables them, either a sole trader or somebody with to be able to step into the market and be able to pretty much from day one have something strong and firm to differentiate in the market with. And I think that matters if you're a consultant today. You need something. You need something to hang, like I did when I started. I was working with a different accredited system before, but I wanted to create my own one, and it did help because I felt too that I had somebody behind me helping me step into these organizations and say, hey, I know something special and unique and different. I can help you in a special way. And this accreditation helps me sort of feel like I've got my Superman suit on to the day, and and to be able to step into that relationship feeling strong and knowing I've got somebody behind me who can support me with materials, a book or a keynote,
Right.
online materials. I've got all that social validation stuff as well. I mean, who the hell are you? But the book is crucial. You can't do this. And often these systems start with a book. And so if you take Radical Candor, which is a particular popular book, they converted it into an accredited system as well.
Right. Or Strengths Finder or EOS. Like
absolutely,
there's
the Clifton stuff, all of that.
Yeah.
Exactly the same kind of idea.
Yeah.
The only
What's been the most,
that,
sorry, go ahead there, Skip.
No, I was just saying the huge difference is our purpose. None of those organizations have any purpose at all. It's just about, we have a better tool to explain human behavior. I'm saying, well, we have that too, but we're also trying to use our tools to create something better, like a better organization. So I think that's a slightly different pitch.
And what's been the most challenging kind of part of this accreditation model for you to this point?
Well, it's the market is still saturated. Leadership development is there is so many, and you're up against some very, very big incumbents, like the Harvards of the world, who have this huge machine nowadays, McKinsey for that matter. So you're up against some very, very big players, and I'm still in the guerrilla phase of building a business where I can sort of find a space into that market. So in reality is how can we have an impact marketing wise, on the customers in a way that is very different to our size? How do we punch massively above our weight? And finding strategies to do that, whether it be by digital or whether it be like activities like talking to you, things like that. So we're trying to really sort of, and the book's coming, start creating oh wow, it's not just a one-off, there's something more in this idea. So I'm just working hard at doing whatever I can to learn about and get better at all the social media, digital marketing, the key leadership, thought leadership that needs to be done here, because that's clearly my role here.
Yeah. Is there one thing inside of all the things that you tried to this point that you feel has, produced the best results or shown the greatest signs of promise and potential?
The book.
Okay.
I think it's very hard to, you can do this without it, but it's very hard. Even though you could say our book's old fashioned or whatever it is, we're looking for that credibility, that stamp of something, and a book is a very important phase in that. I think there are lots of ways for to be able to get help to do that. If writing doesn't come naturally to you, I don't think necessarily ChatGPT is ultimately the way to go. I think you need to get help to really define a message that's strong. But it certainly matters. I can see it matters in so many ways. Also in my social media outreach, it just changes when because you've got a different way to talk to people. Because instead of talking to people, I've got something to sell you, you're saying, hey, I've got something I want to share with you. And it's a different pitch, and that can start that connection, which can lead to business. Maybe not. It's hard to say, but it's a bit easier to open that door because people are so bombed by marketing and cold calling and things like that. I'm hoping that I meet them and say, look, I'm primarily interested in sharing ideas. How are you making sense of AI in your business? How are you making sense of, the sort of the disconnected post-COVID workplace? How are you making sense of some of the most disruptive business conditions we've seen probably in our lifetimes? That's what I'd like to talk to them about.
Right. So here you are, I think you mentioned about 12 or so years in. If you look at what has had, maybe just in general, the biggest impact in growing your business, like where you've seen it's really added significant revenue or profits or just help you to kind of get to that next level, what stands out for you as maybe one activity or one focus that you've really had that has kind of provided outsized gains?
I think you have to partner with the professionals, the best professionals you can find.
Give an example of that, like in your case.
In my case would be whether it be digital marketing or whether it be content production is, through freelancers, but, really good, solid people, because you can't know everything you need to know. Sometimes you got to find a way of partnering. You know, if I look at my publisher today, if I look at my my keynote speaker agent, these are people who just add a lot of value because they say, Skip, no, don't do that. That won't lead anywhere. You spend a lot of time and energy and it won't go anywhere. And what I've seen is by getting solid advice about how to position yourself right and so on makes a huge difference, because otherwise you can just spend so much time doing something which doesn't actually, you know, doesn't lead anywhere.
Yeah.
So I think seeking the, and I don't think you have to have it all under your own business. I think there are an amazing amount of really skillful people, whether it be videographers or, you know, people who do e-learning content, whatever. I think we need as small businesses, you know, we need that network of other businesses to help us. Hopefully you're not charging too much, because that can often be a challenge here. But there's some really, really good people, and not just close. I mean, in my case, all my team are probably in the UK or the US, or in Asia. It depends on what I'm looking for. You know, I think there are so many opportunities to learn something. That's really helped a lot. I mean, I just was doing silly things, you know, trying to market this way, and the digital marketing guy says, "Why you do that? Doesn't make any sense." So
Yeah.
that's he said, look, you can do less and have a bigger impact. And I think that's important. I've learned a lot about that in terms of, particularly at the moment with marketing, I'm on a steep learning curve with how to, you know, build that thought, knowledge, leadership around the book. So I'm getting a lot of good advice around that, and we're executing on it. We can see the difference it's making in terms of the leads and the relationships we're developing. It's great.
As you continue to expand and grow the business to the point where it is today, what's one challenge that you've had either inside the business, or maybe it's even, you know, something that because of what's happening, the business has bled over into, you know, into the personal side, but what's one thing that you've been dealing with, or maybe have overcome, or maybe you're still dealing with today?
I think in any business, what we're trying to do is create followers. And I know that sounds a bit weird to say it like that, but for example, you know, I'm currently negotiating a distribution arrangement in the UK and the Middle East with a company. And I keep saying to myself, make it easy to follow, you know, because the companies that take on board your concepts, your ideas, and want to sell it, it's not about the money. Make it they feel like this is good for them. You know, of course you want to incentivize it, but you want to make it easy to follow. Don't if they say they want to go this way, don't say, no, that's not how we do it. I mean, give them some equity, some, if you like, ideas, decision equity in where they want to take it. And I think this is important, because, you know, I'm in no position to dictate terms. That would be, you know, really silly early in this sort of, particularly in this accreditation phase. We're fairly early in that phase, in this distribution phase. But really thinking, make it easy to follow. This is their business. You know, you want to inspire them. You want them to feel that they want to be on board. They want, because they're all business owners themselves, and they're independent, passionate people too. So make it easy for them to want to jump on board, because these followers, if you the famous video called The Crazy Dancer, it's not, people don't follow the leader, which is in this case me. They follow the first follower.
Yeah. Is that the video of the guy, someone at a music festival, he starts dancing and people are just, and then by the end of it, everybody's gotten up?
It's how you encourage the first follower, because people follow the first follower, not the idiot, what they call the crazy dancer.
Right.
You know, the crazy dancer is Skip Bowman with the Safe to Great concept. But the first followers are the distribution, you know, the accredited practitioners that signed up. And these are the people who need to feel confident, because they're the ones everyone's going to follow. They're going to be drawn to. It's them that are the key here. And I've got to keep reminding myself of that, because, you know, we become so narcissistic and caught up in this was my idea, blah, 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 blah. But you've got to open up. It's a famous principle of community-based development, which is, if you want to create a community purpose-based driven idea, you have to unleash. You've got to let it go. Now, you have to have some business principles in place and some commercials in place. But if you get too caught up and there's no equity, there's no room for them to make decisions about where they want to market, how they want to sell it, then why would they bother? I mean, people are looking for you know, particularly small business owners are looking for choice. They're looking to make, you know, to make decisions. Now, some of them might be good, some of them might be less good, but if they feel that they're part of something important and you've got the commercials right, you know, make it easy to follow.
I think that's really good advice. All right, so Skip, before we wrap up, I want to make sure that people can learn, more about you, your book, everything you have going on. But before we do that, one question that I often like to ask people is, over the last 6 months or so, what is one book that you have either read or listened to? Could be fiction or nonfiction, but just something that you really enjoyed and that you might recommend to others.
Wow, you're asking a guy who's just written a 200-page book and has read loads and loads of books.
Yeah,
I
we'll
think
get to your book in a moment, but just any
no,
any
I
other
was just
books,
saying.
yeah.
I think certainly Carol Dweck's mindset book is
Mindset.
really cool. It's inspired a lot of people.
Sure.
I'd also recommend, a book like Fearless Organizations. It's a great book. Radical Candor by Kim Scott. These are good books with people who know a lot about the business and a lot about how to create success. Some of them a bit more researchy. That's a little bit kind of the books that I might read, but I think those are ones that they've been around a while, but they're still really, really good reads, inspiring reads. I mean, hey,
Yeah.
Satya Nadella changed his company based on Carol Dweck's book, so it was good enough for him.
Yeah, that
It's
creates
probably good enough
some
for a lot of
value.
other people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely.
All right, well, those are great recommendations. Some very solid books in there. And let's now turn to you and to your book. Let people know, first of all, where they can go to learn more about you and your company and your model, and also the book. Where should they go to check all that out?
Yeah, currently the book's Safe to Great: New Psychology of Leadership. Skip Bowman. If you just type any of that information in, it will appear. It's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and a number of other providers. It's in pre-order phase, so it's available first in September. We are putting the very final touches on the book cover at the moment, so it's I'm dying to see it in physical form. So that's the best way to do that. I do have an offer in the pre-order phase, because if you want to confuse the hell out of Google and Amazon, what you do is you get lots of pre-orders. That apparently makes you have a good day when the book finally gets released. There's a chance of becoming a
Correct. That's
bestseller.
right. Yes.
So any support I could get to pre-order. So what I'm doing is I'm not only matching the value of the pre-order that people are making, I'm doubling it in terms of maybe doing a keynote or some coaching or something like that for them. So just send me the confirmation of a pre-order, and I'm very happy to meet that value in some way. I'd really appreciate the help, because as small business owners, we're not, we don't have that superpower that some of these bigger players have, and so any of the support I can get from anyone in particular who's interested in the book and interested in making organizations safe for great work, love to get a pre-order, and I'd love to follow that up by doing a little coaching session, doing a little inspirational speech for a team or something like that. So that's how I'd like to do it.
Fantastic. All right, well, we will have all that linked up in the show notes, Skip at consultingsuccess.com, and I'm sure that you will see some pre-orders come in as a result of this episode
Thank
going
you, sir.
live. Yeah, so thank you for coming on, for sharing some of your journey and everything that you're working on, and I look forward to continuing our conversation.
Yeah, thank you very much. Have a great one.